this movement on this bill, and he deserves and should get a lot of credit for getting this started. So I believe it is an important bill to ensure that people that are not citizens of America do not vote in our elections in this state. And with that, I would like to turn the remainder of my introductory time over to an expert in the matter, Mr. Jack Tomczak.
The county clerks are responsible for making sure
state your name and who you represent for the record,
citizens.
and the time is yours.
You know, come on.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, my name is Jack Tomczak. I'm with Americans for Citizen Voting, a group dedicated to assisting state legislatures in amending their state constitutions to ensure that only U.S. citizens are allowed to legally vote in U.S. elections.
Where are you from?
We help legislators
Kansas?
who have recognized the progress of
American
the non-citizen voting
Legislative
movement
Exchange Council,
and want to
or
prevent it from taking root
Koch
in their
brothers?
state. Passing a citizens-only voting amendment would
funds
prevent
your
municipalities and counties from allowing legal non-citizen voting
That's not-
and setting up their own voter registration system to facilitate such elections. Neither ACV nor this amendment address illegal non-citizen voting. A citizen-only voting amendment addresses a structural loophole in the election system and not individuals sneaking through.
Oh, come on.
Foreign citizens are voting in elections now and doing so legally.
No.
New York City, Washington, D.C., San Francisco, Oakland, 11 cities in Maryland, and 3 cities in Vermont, non-citizens are registering to vote and are
That's a
voting
lie, sir.
legally.
That is a lie.
In San Francisco, Oakland, Washington, D.C., etc., even foreign citizens here illegally have been awarded the right to cast a ballot. In D.C., the Chinese ambassador to the U.S. has become an eligible voter, and so too the KGB agents working out of the Russian embassy.
Oh, come on, sir.
It sounds crazy.
Yeah, you're
because
lying.
it is.
Yeah, you're lying. You're a liar.
There may not be a movement to bring foreign citizen voting to Idaho today, but what about next year? Or the year after that? Also, it's entirely possible that there is a movement in Idaho. These folks
Are you a
behind
Russian
foreign citizen
undercover
voting
agent to
don't
put doubt
broadcast
in our
their
election
targets
system?
and
I
their
wouldn't be
activities for, of course,
surprised.
obvious reasons.
There's a lot of
Article 1,
agents from
Section 2
Russia
of the
in the
state
United
constitution
States,
defines an elector
speak very
as,
well like you.
quote, every male or female citizen of the United States, 18 years or older, who has resided in the state and in the county where he or she offers to vote for the period of time provided by law, if registered as provided by law.
Oh, my goodness.
According to Professor Joshua Douglas in his law review article, The Right to Vote Under Local Law, by saying every male or female citizen of the United States, the Constitution is creating a floor for voter eligibility. At a very minimum, every citizen is allowed to vote, and for sure, this group cannot be denied that
There's
right.
250,000 people that
But the
are
floor
eligible
can be
to
built
vote,
upon,
but
and
they
groups
don't
can be
vote.
added to it by
So
city,
you just
county,
want,
or
you don't
state
want
governments.
more. You don't. You're
There are two
putting
ways
doubt
to
in
close
our
this
in
loophole,
our
either by
democracy,
changing
sir.
the word every to only and creating an absolute and exclusive ceiling for eligibility,
Has Putin funded
or by
your,
specifically
your
excluding
organization,
those who
sir?
are not U.S. citizens from the definition of an elector. House Joint Resolution 5 takes the second route and adds the language, no person who is not a citizen of the U.S. shall be a qualified elector in any election held within the state of Idaho. According to the polling we have done, 80% of Americans agree that only citizens of this country should be allowed to vote in this country.
Well, that's right.
I would challenge anybody to find an issue that has 80% agreement in today's
Well,
political
yeah, because
climate.
I voted the first time in the Air
The
Force
support
when I was
represents a
21
consensus
absentee for
across
Idaho,
every demographic group by race, gender, party, ideology, you name it. That is why amendments like HJR 5 have now passed in 6 states, both red and blue, since 2018. Alabama, Colorado, Florida, Louisiana,
Oh,
North
come
Dakota, and Ohio.
Yeah.
2 states, Iowa and
Resolutions.
Wisconsin, have already
But you're
placed
casting doubt on our
citizen-only voting
democracy,
amendments
sir,
on this November's ballot.
on our county clerks.
And in recent weeks, Kentucky's House and West Virginia's Senate have passed the same measure overwhelmingly. Another 11 states
Yeah.
presently have bills working through the process.
I'd like to see the checks of your
I want to
organization.
state very clearly that
Charles
citizen-only
Koch.
voting is not about immigration. It's about citizenship. Too often, the people who had the incredible luck of being born in the United States take citizenship for granted. but the immigrants who came to this country legally and endured the
How about
difficulties of the naturalization
the,
process do not.
Rupert Murdoch, who became a U.S. citizen because he had
Naturalized citizens are the biggest
$500,000.
supporters of citizen-only voting because for them there was a cost.
Billionaires from other countries,
Avi
like
McCullough,
China,
the president of Americans
Russia,
for Citizen
all they
Voting,
have to do is spend
is a naturalized
$500,000
citizen.
and they become a U.S. citizen.
If citizens of
That was
foreign
passed in
countries can vote in
1995.
the United States, what is the point of becoming a citizen of the United States? Why follow the rules if it doesn't matter? What message does that send?
Yeah, what message are you sending?
I am certain that the members of this committee agree that only U.S. citizens should vote in U.S. elections. However, there may be some differences regarding the urgency in which the problem needs to be addressed. It is undeniable that the foreign citizen voting movement is very real, and that a constitutional fix is the only solution.
Oh, yeah, we got to do that.
Whether you think the foreign citizen
create
movement
more
will come to
chaos
Idaho
in the
next
United
year
States.
or in 10 years, the
cast
solution
doubt
is the same.
on our
The
election
Constitution
system.
must be amended, and the
there
people
was
of
no
Idaho should
fraud.
be given the opportunity to do it.
We
We urge a
in
yes
Georgia
vote
or anybody.
on HDR 5 and close this loophole before it becomes a bigger problem. Put this issue on the ballot for the voters to decide.
Say hello to Putin for me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tomczak. Representative Crane.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for a motion.
Certainly.
I would move that we send HJR 5 to the floor with a due pass recommendation.
This is a Crane.
Committee, we have a motion. Representative Achilles.
Yeah, Madam Chair, a couple questions for Mr. Tomczak.
Certainly.
First of all, Mr. Tomczak, can you tell me where your organization's based?
Mr. Tomczak.
That's tricky. I live in Minnesota. We've got a person in Missouri. We got somebody in Virginia, a couple people in Texas. The president of the organization lives in Tennessee.
Okay.
Post-COVID, I think we all work on the internet now.
Indeed, a lot of us do.
Representative Achilles.
Sorry, Madam Chair. And a follow-up question here. You gave some examples in your opening comments of elections in which foreign citizens are voting, but no context on what the elections were. Can you be specific about what actual elections they were? Were they school board? Were they cemetery district? Just what those were.
Mr. Tomczak.
Oh, sorry. Madam Chair and Representative, it is local municipal elections like city council, mayor, and school board.
Oh, come on. Good grief. You can't get people to run for those offices.
Representative Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Tomczak, I'm interested in, as you were researching this part of code and looking at language across the country, did the term dual citizenship come up? And I know this doesn't really address it, but did any of the other languages address it?
No.
Mr. Tomczak.
Sorry. Rules. Madam Chair and Representative, no.
Thank you.
Yeah, $500,000, you become a U.S.
Representative
citizen.
Gannon.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Mr. Tomczak. So, this does cost $200,000. So, I just want to drill down just a little bit on the first line. Just looks very clear to me. Every male or female citizen of the United States is a qualified elector, and that just kind of tells me, well, if you're not a citizen of the United States, you're not a qualified elector.
Bingo.
Can you give me a specific example of someone who is not a citizen of the United States who has voted in an Idaho election?
Mr. Tomczak.
Madam Chair and Representative, no, I can't, because
It's not true.
there are no municipalities who have tried to implement this yet. I've tried to find the best analogy to describe like the difference between if it's every citizen or if it said only a citizen, which is how a lot of states amend their constitution to say only rather than every. If I have a birthday party for one of my kids and I invite
an alternative
every kid in the neighborhood,
that's a
that doesnn't mean that
political trick.
those are going to be the only kids at the party. There might be kids from school. There might be grandma and grandpa might be coming. The word every isn't exclusive. It just says that for sure, like this group gets to vote. It doesn't say other groups can't.
You have a follow-up, Representative Gannon? All right. Are there any further questions for Mr. Tomczak? Seeing none, thank you for joining the committee today.
All
All right, committee.
All over
I do not see any further public testimony on House Joint Resolution 5. Representative Andrus, I'm assuming you are good with that and don't wish to close further. Committee, House Joint Resolution 5 is properly before us. Oh, we do have a motion. Okay, that's right. Thank you for reminding me. We do have a motion to send House Joint Resolution 5 to the floor with a due pass. Representative Gannon.
Yes, Madam Chair, I was just looking through the written comments. There is and I think it'd be, there is opposition to this on the mainly on the basis of cost that it isn't necessary, and that's what I'm thinking. I'm just not hearing that there's a problem here with our Idaho Constitutional Convention, our Idaho Constitution, and so why would we spend $200,000 adding this in if there's no problem? And it's a lot of work, and we're already going to have other constitutional amendments on the ballot, it sounds like. So I need to vote no.
All right.
Sorry.
Thank you, Representative Gannon. Representative Skog.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Gannon, I looked at this yesterday, did some looking into things, and I was surprised that there really is a movement in the nation to have local elections with non-citizens voting, and it is happening in Vermont. Vermont Supreme Court decided that because the way their constitution was written, it did not preclude non-citizens from voting in elections. And our constitution could be interpreted the same way, the way it is written now. It's not exclusive. It could be interpreted with good attorneys
It said
and judges that I would disagree with. We could allow non-citizens to vote in elections. There is a movement. These different movements come up, and I was surprised. The Brennan Center, ACLU, Chinese for Affirmative Action are all actively supporting this type of thing across the nation to get non-citizens to vote based on being residents of a community, not based on citizenship. Again, there are legal arguments in the courts that sometimes prevail now, allowing non-citizens to vote. And that Vermont Supreme Court was in 2023. I don't have the exact citation in front of me.
Sure, it's a lie.
But voting in Idaho, according to our Supreme Court in 1980, is a fundamental right for voting. However, there's ambiguity in the state constitution, not at first glance when you look at it, but as you look further, in light of the other court decisions, there's a bit of a loophole. So without an Idaho constitutional amendment that's being brought by my favorite cowboy legislator, future courts or legislators could expand the right of voting to non-citizens in Idaho. Without, there is no explicit prohibition in our state constitution for non-citizens to vote.
Oh, come on. Are you kidding me?
Simply because the Constitution affords the right of citizens
I hope you're
to vote
paying
does
attention
not
to what this
exclude
guy's saying, Mr.
non-citizens.
Skog.
That's how it gets interpreted and twisted around in the courts. So I really think this is an important one.
Yeah, you would.
Thank you, Representative Skog. Representative Barbieri.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to speak as well in support. I think it's important to recognize that, if the majority of the legislature makes a determination that this loophole needs to be closed, it's important to recognize that it's an important responsibility of the legislature to accurately define and establish the parameters by which a judicial review would look at anything like this. So the fact that we don't have anything happening in this state yet, or we don't see anything happening in this state, does not mean that we should not be proactive and make sure that if the issue does come up, it's established what the legislature's intent was,
scare everybody from voting,
the courts would thereby rule that way, rather than leaving it open to their own determination as to what the interpretation of the Constitution means.
You don't want them to vote,
Thank
do
you,
you,
Representative
Mr.
Barbieri. Representative Achilles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think just a comment for Representative Skog. Today in Idaho, citizens and taxpayers who are unaffiliated aren't allowed to participate in primary elections. So we do have restrictions on who's participating in our elections today. So I just want to make sure that we anchor this conversation in the system that we have today before I think, start chasing ghosts. I just don't. I struggle to think about a municipality in Idaho that would undertake this. And if they did, there's another element of, are we deferring and deferring to local control in terms of that municipality's right to make these decisions? And I have no idea what the reasons are. I can't, in general, I don't think this is a good idea either. But there may be some perspective on that in different localities, and I think we have to respect that a municipality or a school board may want to undertake something like this, and to cut that out is inappropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Achilles. The chair would just remind the committee that as we discuss these issues, we want to direct our comments to the legislation before us and through the chair rather than directly to each
yeah,
other.
okay,
So
yeah, you want to filter
don't get
it,
into this back and forth thing.
Uh-huh.
So, Representative Gannon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I will take a look at this. I'm looking at the at one of the at the Vermont Constitution and now, and I think the Vermont Constitution is similar to Section 2, but it also has a provision that says that no person who is already a free man of this state shall be entitled to exercise the privileges of a freeman unless he is natural born of this or someone of the United States, etc. And apparently, when Vermont became a state, they didn't require that you be a citizen of the United States. You had to be what was called a free man, and that's got a unique definition. But I'll look at it some more. But their provision requires that a voter be of quiet and peaceable behavior, which is interesting. I don't know how. We don't require that. We can be kind of rowdy, I guess. But
Except in this committee.
Except at this committee, yes. So, but I will have to take a look at that some more. I do see where some municipalities in Vermont did allow non-citizens to vote, and that's what spawned the Supreme Court case.
I take that as debate in support of the motion.
No, well, it's debate. Well, it's debate, concern about the motion. For now, I'll be a no, but I might change my mind.
Duly noted. Thank you, Representative Gannon. Any further comments on the motion? Representative Barbieri.
Here we go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that the allusion to primaries is apt. I think that when we look at primaries that were designed for each party to determine the party's, nominee representing that party's platform, and the same concept that now we're trying to use the inclusiveness argument for both instances. So I think that's an apt allegory or allusion. So I'm just saying, if the legislature makes the determination that we want to assure that non-citizens are not voting in state or local elections, this is the time to do it.
Thank you, Representative Barbieri.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Seeing no more red lights, we have a motion committee to send House Joint Resolution 5 to the floor with a do pass recommendation. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay?
Nay.
Would you like to be recorded? Representative Achilles would like to be recorded as voting nay on House Joint Resolution 5.